What does it take for someone who always thinks they're right to open up to the idea that they might be wrong?
The person in front of you isn't fighting you. They're fighting to be understood by you. They're fighting to feel understood by you. When somebody's clammed up and you have to say, you need to change your opinion. You need to change your opinion. You're right. I'm wrong. That's not going to happen. You can't just wish for that. Instead, if I were to say to you, listen, I'm not here to change your mind, Jay. This is what I believe. You hear how just me saying that all of a sudden opens up that curiosity of, well, maybe I do want to change my mind. I don't really know. But if I were to say,
every argument you've ever had might not have been about winning at all. Jefferson Fischer is a trial lawyer turned communication expert who has spent years studying what actually happens inside difficult conversations, at home, at work, and inside relationships that matter most. Because most of us were never taught how to communicate, only how to react. This is Synthesize, where we turn long podcast conversations into their most important ideas. Most people think avoiding conflict keeps the peace. But what if avoiding the conversation is what breaks everything?
Would you encourage people to meet difficult and tough conversations head on?
if you don't, the bill always comes due. The bill always comes due. You're going to have that difficult conversation at the very end when you're at your wit's end, or you may never have it at all because there's going to be something in your life that happened that they're not going to be here anymore. And what should have been said, that opportunity was lost. We avoid the difficult because we avoid the...
Avoidance doesn't remove conflict. It delays it. And when it finally shows up, it's heavier, messier, and harder to repair. The real risk isn't the conversation. It's waiting too long to have it. So instead of being honest, we choose to be liked. We soften the truth. We say what sounds good. We become who we think others want.
Without an inherent belief of it being a negative result.
It's the understanding that it's not my job to feel somebody else's feelings for them. And that's what you do when you're afraid to disappoint someone. You're afraid to say the hard thing, the right thing. You'd rather be nice. You'd rather say the thing that sounds good. Those kind of things always have a bitter taste because you realize I'm not being real. I'm not being authentic. And before you know it, you've just been people-pleasing. Before you know it, you feel less than yourself. Before you know it, you feel lost and you really don't know who you are. And now you're in your mid-40s and you have a crisis and you go, what is my purpose on life here? Because I've been living it to serve.
People-pleasing feels safe in the moment, but over time, it disconnects you from yourself. You don't lose relationships first. You lose clarity about who you are. And eventually, that confusion shows up everywhere. Now here's where things start to quietly fall apart. Not because of what was said, but because of what was heard.
What's the number one communication mistake you see people making today?
The one that I make too is that you think that what is said is exactly what's heard, especially in relationships. How many times in a relationship have they kind of repeated back what you said? Well, you said, man, and you're, that's not what I said. I didn't sound like that. That's not how I said it. And when you start arguing, they go, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And they go, I wish I had this recorded. You know, I wish I had this on camera that you could have seen back how you just spoke to me. And instead we start fighting over how I said it. Mm. The better way to go is to say, what did you hear? What did you hear? Oh, okay. That's not at all what I meant. Can I have let me redo that. That's not at all what I meant. Instead, we split the conversation into something that has nothing to do with the original source.
We assume clarity, but communication is interpretation. Tone, timing, emotion, all distort meaning. And instead of checking understanding, we defend what we meant. But the real shift is simple. Don't defend your words. Clarify their experience. Here's the part most people never realize. You're not arguing about the topic. You're arguing about something deeper.
Criticism. The more I tell you that you're wrong, the more convinced you'll be that you're right. Because most likely, if I want you to change your mind and I say that you're wrong about something, Jay, I'm not just saying you're wrong. I'm saying that your wife's wrong. Your dad's wrong. Your parents are wrong. Your grandmother is wrong. That thing that you went to when you were a kid, that's a big crystallizing moment in your life that that set your belief system is all wrong. And it's become part of your identity. And so instead of me fighting, I think I'm fighting an opinion. I'm not. I'm fighting now your identity. And people will go to the ends of the earth. They will close off everything. They will box their ears to prevent having to change one.
When you challenge someone's belief, you're not just challenging an idea, you're challenging their identity. And people will defend their identity at all costs, even against logic, facts, or evidence. That's why arguments don't change minds. They harden them. So if arguments don't work, what does? A complete shift in goal.
What does it take for someone who always thinks they're right to open up to the idea that they might be wrong?
The person in front of you isn't fighting you. They're fighting to be understood by you. They're fighting to feel understood by you. When somebody's clammed up and you have to say, you need to change your opinion. You need to change your opinion. You're right. I'm wrong. That's not going to happen. You can't just wish for that. Instead, if I were to say to you, listen, I'm not here to change your mind, Jay. This is what I believe. You hear how just me saying that all of a sudden opens up that curiosity of, well, maybe I do want to change my mind. I don't really know. But if I were to say,
this changes everything, because now the goal isn't to win, it's to understand. And when someone feels understood, they stop needing to defend themselves. That's when real conversation begins. But what happens when the other person won't even engage? When the distance is already there?
How do you crack that code? What I've found most successful in what I teach them is I begin with saying, I know, I'm not, and I'm open. And it sounds like this. I know there's distance between us. I know things aren't how we both want them to be. I know I've messed up. Whatever that is, you're saying what is a given. 2 is I'm not. I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not asking for whatever it is. What they think, that's what you're after. And 3 is I'm open. I'm open to a conversation. I'm open to listening.
This works because it removes pressure. No demands, no expectations, just an open door. And sometimes that's all connection needs to begin again. At this point, it's easy to think communication is just about saying the right words. But in reality, it's about managing what happens inside you first.
And show we're right. How do we even get into that pocket?
Your first word has to be your breath in those moments. When somebody says something we don't like, we get up like that. We suck it in, but we don't let it out. Instead, our breath comes out when we're yelling or raising our voice. When you start to yell and somebody says you're yelling and you go, I'm not yelling. Because you know deep down that's exactly what you're doing. If you find that you don't know how to slow it down, it's your breath. Your breath always comes first so that you can actually breathe. And there's a difference between if you say something.
This is the turning point, because most arguments don't start with words. They start with reactions. Breath creates space. Space creates control, and control creates clarity. Without it, everything escalates. Sometimes the problem isn't loud conflict, it's silence, distance, withdrawal, disconnection.
Punishment. They're upset. You did something and they just go, oh, okay, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. That to me is the number one sign of low emotional intelligence, is if you can't even have the ability to say, I need to take a break for a second because that really upset me. I'll text you this afternoon. I'll text you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow, versus just ghosting. Just because what it does is it puts.
Silence isn't neutral, it's a message. And when it's used as punishment, it creates insecurity, confusion, and emotional chasing. The healthier response isn't to chase, it's to acknowledge and step back with clarity. Underneath every argument, there's something unspoken, a need, a fear, a question.
Based on who did the mistake.
99% of the time, our arguments are not what we're arguing about. They are about the hidden need. The need to feel understood, the need to feel heard, the need to feel safe by that other person. And things go so south when I pick up the frustration or I pick up the reaction and not listening to the need. Every one of us, ourselves included, we go into conversations with these hidden fears of, am I enough? Mm-hmm. Am I enough if I get it wrong? Am I enough if I look scared, or I don't know what to do, or I don't know what to say, or will I be abandoned? Are they not going to want me, or do they not really care? We come in every single time to one of these conversations. And if I'm just responding to the reaction.
This is the core of everything. Not the words, not the topic, not the situation, but the feeling underneath it all. Do you see me? Do I matter to you? When that need is met, conflict dissolves. Most people think relationships end because of one big moment, one betrayal, one mistake, but it's rarely that simple.
It is repair, and that's the measure of a true relationship. How quick can I get to repair? Relationships don't fall apart because of one big failure. They fall apart because of the 100 micro moments where repair could have happened, but it didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. These little cracks.
Yeah. These fissures.
It's not the explosion. It's the accumulation. The small moments where you could have said, I understand, I'm sorry, I see you, but didn't. And over time, those missed moments become distance. If you take anything from this conversation, let it be this. First, avoidance doesn't protect your relationships. It delays the damage. Second, people don't argue to win. They argue to be understood. Third, relationships aren't built on perfection, but on repair. And maybe the real question isn't, how do I win this conversation? But instead, what is this person actually trying to feel right now? Because the moment you answer that, everything changes. If this kind of breakdown helps you think differently, you'll probably enjoy the next video too.